Hey, Mahali Sparkles. This is Madam Equilibrium, and I welcome you to today's Equilibrant Moon Cycle Affairs translation, or shortly MCA. And without further ado, we right away dive into the celestial cosmic realms above us and see why and how the affairs do probably affect us below and what we can do or should not do. Okay then, let's go. Previously, we had the strawberry full moon lying within the feminine earth energy of our solid zodiac sign Capricorn, whose ruler planet is the planet of structure, Saturn, while being in the era of our feminine and family addicted zodiac sign of water, Cancer, whose ruler planet, however, is no other than our moon herself. And right after the strawberry full moon, Neptune reached a comfortable altitude in the constellation of our zodiac sign of water and winter, Pisces, by actually being not far from the ruler planet of Capricorn and Aquarius, Saturn. Well, what does that mean? I want to tell you what I shortly said when I was lately asked about the meaning of that strawberry moon constellation, since the questioner and I were both on the fly. I very briefly answered, quote, "It's a very structured but also very love-based energy with a teeny tiny masculine airy energy support by our Aquarius." Some maybe wonder, Aquarius? Why was Aquarius involved? Very briefly explained, it's because Saturn is not only the ruler planet of Capricorn, but also the ruler planet of our masculine air sign of winter, Aquarius. And this is why we also had support by the element of air to hold the balance between staying structured by simultaneously also being flexible, to not get stuck in that structure, but to also move on. Or I invented it and used to phrase it since, a friendly butt nudge for good, which also gets you moving one way or another, right? One way or another question? Yes, because Aquarius is not alone. Aquarius has a next ruler planet, which is mostly known as the planet of sudden changes and rebellion, Uranus. Talking about Uranus, the rebellion, and Mars, the driven, makes fully sense because on July 4, there is in the pre-dawn sky a Mars-Uranus conjunction happening within the constellation of our zodiac sign of Earth and Spring, Taurus. By the way, rumors go that even though the ancient Babylonians couldn't see Uranus with the naked eye, they kept detailed records of Mars in their manuals whenever Mars passed through Taurus, which they believed as an omen for different challenges and conflicts to appear, meaning Mars in action will come incredibly close to Uranus, forcing intensity in any movement, which is to be seen as a warning not to explode because of too much of unpredictable, unbounded energy, but as a chance for innovation as well. However, wherever you are, you can maybe catch Mars as a red dot and Uranus with a gentle green hue, while at the same time a magnificent Pleiades star cluster will be hovering just a few degrees away. And since Taurus is somehow involved here, it shows that everything is going to be alright, as we are by our homie Taurus learning how to rest. At least for a while. Talking about resting makes even more sense considering the fact that on July 6, the Earth reaches the farthest point from the Sun in its elliptical orbit, while being in the energies of our ever-moving and ever-cosmical connected zodiac sign of water and winter, Pisces. Very shortly, for those who are interested in how far away Earth actually is going to be, I briefly researched it, and according to Google, Earth seems to be about 94.5 million miles away. Okay? So, and what does this mean now? For instance, our ancestors and indigenous people used this time for grounding and slowing down by recognizing and accepting a temporary distance as a natural part of a larger cycle. See, this is why Taurus, as a notorious predictability-loving sign, is temporarily there, telling the cosmos, oh, too bad that the cosmos has other plans. I stay here. That's my spot. I'm not moving anywhere. Okay? By saying butt nudge, for example, and Uranus, well, we also need fire somehow, right? And so the third quarter moon on July 7 will ride alongside the very slowly moving Saturn, while lying within the masculine energies of our zodiac sign of fire, Aries, whose ruler planet is the planet of wars and battles, Mars. Brief side note, it is said that in ancient history, the placements of the planets of this specific time are being used to calculate long-term stability, for example, in the matter of seasons, harvesting, and security borders. At the same time, also a cosmic astrological shift is going to happen, as Mercury, which is ruled by the Greek god Hermes and is also the ruler planet of both Gemini and Virgo, goes retrograde in our sensitive zodiac sign of water, Cancer, pulling with a highly emotional and nostalgic tint, pulling the collective awareness backwards toward our common emotional past, like childhood memories, family dynamics, etc., mixing up everything together in the middle of the matrix, while Neptune's retrograde creates multiple illusions and foggy realms to take away from us a realistic view at our unexpressed desires. Straightly, yes, you might feel unusually nostalgic, tender, dizzy, or even a bit aggressive because of the loops you suddenly find yourself in. But remember, all this is not happening to punish any one of us. On the very contrary, the energies are there to upgrade and protect your peace, even fiercely when needed, in order to stay grounded. This is why we, at least for a couple of days, need the master of communication and straightforwardness, Gemini. Even though some maybe don't like that fact, but Spirit has called out an urgency for protection and is lovingly calling us to just surrender. Remember, the energies are working for us, and so does Gemini, aka Mercury, aka Hermes, with their very abilities, from which we should, in this matter, profit from as well. And then on July 9, there comes Venus. First of all, leaving the actual dramatic energy of Leo and stepping into the practical and grounded energies of our zodiac sign of Earth, Virgo, which helps us to bring our focus back again maybe, and supports us shifting away from loud noises to be of service in silence, in quiet consistency, in order to create healthy daily routines as well as organizing long-term goals. Additionally, to light the path up for us, Libra is going to dominate and bright the sky with its beautiful light, which makes fully sense since our planet Venus is ruled by the Greek goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and desire. Not only that, Venus is also the ruler planet of our zodiac sign of air, Libra, as well as our zodiac sign of earth, Taurus. And this, however, I lovingly used to call beautifully balanced love. Good news is, when looking at the planets, we always need to look closer at who is maybe also involved, like we had before with Aquarius. And in this case, yes, we have Aries jumping in with Mars's battle energies, but with Mars, we have again a teeny tiny bit of an additional feminine zodiac sign involved, which is our zodiac sign of water, Scorpio. Which doesn't stop here, because Scorpio has a next ruler planet as well, which is Pluto. Yes, in astrology, Pluto is still a planet. Anyhow, yeah, I know about various stereotype thoughts in case of our Scorpio peeps. So this is why maybe some of you say now, no, please not Scorpio and Pluto. This makes no better at all. Those thoughts are mostly coming from some of you imagining this constellation as kind of a purgatory situation, like a non-stop battle and fight situation. From we, first of all, have to protect us to not get involved or attacked in a fight, which is not easy at all in the first place, right? Well, this reminds me of the Supernatural series, and maybe if you know the series too, you perhaps now have a swift view in mind, because there we get a picture about how the purgatory can look like and works. But to be clear, not in a religion sense, just as an arbitrary battlefield, because you never know what comes next. But attention, the truth is, in fact, we don't need that fight imagination of Scorpio and Pluto to find ourselves in an arbitrary fight situation. Why? We actually already are fighting against and through arbitrariness and suspect force to survive on this planet called Earth, which no one can deny anymore. But good news is, each and every fight and fever you survive makes you more and more wise, stronger, and grateful, which in the end brings inner peace and trust into our very selves. And with that, our heart can calm down. And in that calm state, our heart can finally connect to the brain without being bothered by panic, for example. And so, with the support of Libra's balanced scale, build its pristine coherence between the heart and the brain, okay? And this is what we want, to be one again, to feel one again, even though suspicious forces are unstoppably trying to disconnect us, and they won't stop. They disconnect our souls from everything, from each other, and especially from ourselves and our source, aka divine source or matrix, however you want to call it, okay? Because when we are disconnected from each other and our source, we are vulnerable. And those forces, of course, know that, which is why for them, separation is key to power. And we, or to be more specific, our souls are their bait. They aim for our souls, because without our souls, we are just poor vessels, marionettes they can play their disgusting and tremendously dangerous games with. Therefore, it is so important to stay true to our very selves and connect or reconnect to our roots, to go back to basics, and to deeply remember from within. What was once good is still good. What was once invented by our ancestors for good is still good. What was once healing is still healing. Okay? But by recalling this, we need to also keep in mind to remember that this ancient knowledge, which was given to us by nature, is what those forces not only want us to forget about, they also want to ever remove all our pristine abilities from our DNA. After soaking out, aka grabbing all that ancient and today's so-called modern knowledge, which lies within us until the last tiniest light dot within, which made us human, disappears. This is why, as soon as we are born into this realm on earth, we are being forced to immediately forget about our pristine core, including all our capabilities, even though we still have them here on earth. Yes, we still have them. It's harder, yes, no doubt, but it's there. So to hold the connection to our common matrix, or call it synaptic network if you will, is life-savingly essential. And that what was once good, that what our ancient scholars and ancestors invented and learned, still holds true, as they, for example, looked up to the stars, the sun, the moon, the planets, the environment, the animal behavior, etc., etc., to the above and below in general. They observed, read, and translated them as one, in order to be able to precisely predict what they needed to do or not do next in the matter of harvesting, for instance. So do practitioners nowadays as well. They also are observing and tracking the heavens and earth in general for a greater multi-view, creating a celestial mind or roadmap, so to speak, to help not only humanity improve their souls, but the whole environment to heal and to stay healthy. Yeah, because we are one. We are one energetic network, ever vibrating within our common network, by ever being in exchange of sending and receiving information and knowledge by our very frequencies. Ever wondered why you sometimes just know things just like that? Even though you did no research by yourself and have no source for proof whatsoever, you just know it. Or if someone all of a sudden calls you, giving you the exact answer you needed right at that very moment, or you suddenly can't speak right or at least understand a foreign language which you have never heard or even thought about before. I know, of course, these are just little examples, but this is the matrix, our synaptic network, our frequencies of our source, our divine core, our multiverse, however you want to call it. This is how it works for us. Ever vibrating, transporting, and exchanging. Okay? Saying vibration Everything is ever vibrating. So does each and every one of us, including the whole environment, is individually, but nevertheless commonly vibrating in unity, as well as endlessly receiving, absorbing, reading, and healing for good. This wholeness gets strengthened on July 11 as the cosmos creates, let's say, a cosmic communicative triquetra between Mars, the thin crescent moon, and Pleiades star cluster, while lying in the energy of our zodiac sign of air and master of communication, Gemini, which we, by the way, with a little luck, maybe even have the chance to recognize in the eastern horizon. So by talking about preparation, the appearance of Gemini as the master of communication most importantly shows us that proper, truthful, flexible, as well as especially straightforward communication is now the ultimate essence to overcome obstacles or misunderstandings, while simultaneously lighting up the path of integrity, calling us to now build solid bridges within the void of between the betweens, which seems to be impossible at first sight, right? Because we are guessing that there must be ether. So the question comes up about how can we build bridges, solid bridges, or anything on ether? And those questions are of course quite understandable, but heads up, for a Gemini, aka a trickster of Mercury, those questions aren't questions at all. For Hermes, the Greek trickster god of thieves, traders, and travelers, it's pure fun to turn the impossible into possible. And so we not only can, but have the great chance to collect trickstery knowledge for good directly from the master in order for us to overcome existing differences on the foundation of humanity, morals, and ethics, by at the same time using the balance scale of Libra. Because yes, even though we learn directly from the master, we must keep in mind that he is a tricky trickster anyway. So we learned from him, yes, but also a tricky trickster god can be way too much or too less, which means we need to carefully take an eye on his actions, like reading him, reading his movements, even beyond and in between the lines, so to say, by importantly staying perfectly balanced, okay? Just as a tiny example, coming from the Maori in New Zealand, and I know, my peeps, this I do not make justice here. This is a whole topic for itself and need pure attention. I know that, okay? But it is so fine and pristine and so beautifully to explain it to the whole matrix, to our whole brothers and sisters, to just get a glimpse about what we're talking about here, okay? So for indigenous cultures, the phase of the new moon, for example, is spiritually tied to abundance of the ocean. And this is why ceremonies are being held to honor, for example, the harvest, meaning they give thanks for the balance they were gifted with, through being able to read the signs properly and precisely, so that at the end they were gifted with the fruition. Okay? And so we are also called to stay grateful, to stay thankful in everything what we see and maybe not recognize. Okay? So, yeah, let's communicate then, right? And move on to the next celestial happening, which is the new moon on July 14, lying in the energies of our zodiac sign of water, again, Cancer, while being in the era of, again, Cancer. And this is, my sparkles, a powerful emotional reset button, as well as the emotional anchor of this entire cycle. Since Cancer rules the home, belongings, and emotional foundations, this mighty energy creates even more feminine energy, even more love, even more family healing, even more caring, even more protection and personal security. And all this supported by both the waxing crescent moon and Venus, who will gently stay closer to one another to manifest vast, beautiful gardens based on love, in which we all can let our vibrant roots run free for nourishment. Remember what we discussed previously? Now we immediately get a glimpse about how important it is to read and translate energies, especially as an unity. Because now we know that despite of hard times, the source energy is always working for us. There's always love surrounding and guarding us. We just need to remember. Well, that's going to be especially important as our zodiac sign of fire, Leo, opens up the gates for its era on July 23, right as Mercury goes direct to end its retrograde. Meaning that the energy accelerates rapidly, which is no wonder when fire, aka Leo, and air, aka Gemini, are involved. So we need to remember and keep in mind that the energy, what is it? The energies are working for us. So meaning that both Leo and Gemini are there to clear the fog from the previous weeks of miscommunication and to lift the collective mood in order to place our bold creativity into the very center of the spotlight. And not only that, Leo starts its era by lying in the energies of our water sign Scorpio, which can be, to be straight, not bad, but partially very turbulent for one or another, if you didn't do your preparations properly. Remember, staying connected and rooted to your source, or at least, if it feels easier for you, to Mother Earth. And when needed, even stay stubbornly grounded, okay? Because this is why even also our homie Taurus jumped into this moon cycle affairs translation anyway. For us to learn stubbornness in a healthy way. And with all that, Spirit is calling us to even hold stubbornness in mind, but in a positive way, okay? Just and only in a positive way. Because Saturn holds its forward motion and stations retrograde in our zodiac sign of fire and spring Aries, just as the lunar nodes generate karmic shifts as well. To be more specific, the North Node enters our zodiac sign of air and winter, Aquarius, while the South Node enters our zodiac sign of fire and summer, Leo, who are, in astrology, in fact, opposite zodiac signs anyway. And this fact alone is tough enough to even try to handle. However, what this constellation demands is solid personal accountability and a vast review of maybe long obsolete rules and boundaries you maybe have set for perhaps especially this year of the anyway fiery year of the fire horse. And this holds special importance as those mentioned shifting nodes are opening up a whole new, let's say, era for itself, by not only calling us, but pushing us to evolve away from ego, symbolized by Leo, and look forward toward for building a collaborative, innovative community, symbolized by Aquarius. Yeah, I know, so much to communicate, so much to learn, right? And without further ado, let's move on with kind of a meaning summary of all this. Straightforward, even though some of us will do not like that information, but we need the blank as well as balanced truth to survive. No blah blah, no fog. Okay? So yes, a couple of days or maybe more than a couple of days can be very challenging until the arriving of the next full moon. And the next full moon on July 29 is called Buck Full Moon, which will lie in the energies of our masculine zodiac sign of air and winter, Aquarius. And what do we remember? Our Aquarius isn't alone. There is Saturn. And with Saturn, we have again the feminine zodiac sign of earth and winter, Aquarius too. And there's also the next ruler planet of our Aquas, Uranus, or as I use to call this alignment, aka structured rebellion for good. But this is not all about this specific Buck full moon, because while the Buck full moon comes full circle, well, speaking about our point of view on Earth, our planet Jupiter will reach its solar conjunction, passing and hiding directly behind the sun while simultaneously completely vanishing from the sky until later in August. In ancient Persian history, for example, this was called under the beam. And when a planet was under the beam, it was considered as symbolically dead, which we nowadays know that's not true. But their thinking is quite understandable, considering the fact that Jupiter is ruled by the Greek god Zeus, who was representing a supreme ruler and divine protector to them. So in this period of time, the sudden disappearance of Jupiter surely must have been felt vulnerable to them until to their eyes Jupiter was reborn, so to say. Nevertheless, in astrology, this is a mighty, mighty powerhouse moment, because in the matters of relationships and social network, this Buck full moon lying in Aquarius's energy brings, without being destructive, final endings and dramatic revelations with it, forcing us to vast structural reality checks. Luckily, this ephemeral time is concurrently paired with a rare Sun-Jupiter conjunction that's opening up a massive window of optimism, luck, and sudden cosmic clarity. This possibility will bring instant clarity and fresh personal freedom in a for you fitting path, making the final days of this year's July so important to finally bring major spiritual manifestations and opportunity to fruition, which you probably have held back for far too long while hiding your true eccentricities, which even also were long since obsolete and didn't fit. But no, this doesn't mean that Jupiter can't influence anymore and everything is going to fall apart. On the very contrary, Jupiter, which is ruled by the Greek god Zeus, will also surrender to the vibrating energies of the matrix, and so is going to act within the beauty of poetry and wisdom from the background in calm silence to not disturb spiritual and cosmic actions which are important and meant to happen. Recognize something? The cycles are properly cycling, as well as building alignments by steadily repeating themselves to manifest for good. So we have, for example, Cancer, Scorpio, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, Virgo, as well as Aquarius and Capricorn repeatedly popping up to create Given under the circumstances, the most possible balance for good. Gifting you, gifting us with the absolute best momentum for launching a passion project, pitching an ambitious idea, or just boldly stepping into the very spotlight for pure creation, whatever you want to create for good. See, indigenous astronomy or astrology reveals profound connection to and within the moon cycles. So instead of viewing the above and below separately, indigenous cultures across the globe are still reading and translating the relationships between the above and below as a unified living system. Have you catched something? We are all that unified living system. Okay? Well, coming to an end, you know what? Well, we actually can translate all this into one sense. So let's translate it this way. Tough times ahead, yes, but we are grounded. And even though if the mud below creates disbalance, we are solidly anchored and mighty loved. Okay? And in this sense, stay equilibrant in equilibrium. Bye bye. Love you lots.